Democrats complained every day when Trump was in office, saying that he was bumbling and stumbling, unable to function, and in cognitive decline. And I agreed with that. But now that the shoe has been on the other foot and those very same voices are all silent when it comes to Biden, it shows me that they are not really serious about whether or not a president is capable of doing the job. They just care if it's their installment. For the last several years, we have been hearing from Democrats that our democracy is at stake.
Because our democracy is at stake.
Our democracy is at stake.
Yes, our democracy is at stake.
What is on the line? What's at stake?
I think our democracy is at stake.
The question now becomes, will the country hold on to democracy?
And democracy itself is at stake.
Our democracy. Rev, I think everything is at stake right now.
How would you describe what's at stake in this election?
I think our democracy is at stake. Not a joke. The threat to democracy must be defended.
One of the issues that's obviously going to be at stake on this election is democracy.
But the future of our democracy is at stake.
And democracy is really at stake.
What is at stake in all of this is nothing less than our democracy.
And that's what I mean when I say democracy is at stake in this election.
What is at stake in all this?
Democracy.
Everything that makes America America is at stake, and literally our democracy is at stake in my view, our view. I say our view because you've been doing as hard as I have.
Democracy is pretty simple. It's a government that is by the people with a rule of the majority. Another key element of a democracy is the holding of free elections. Democrats did not hold a primary for the 2024 election. The electorate was told that Joe Biden was not going anywhere and that it would be him on the ticket come November. Even though many Democrats were asking for an open primary so as to follow through with the promise Joe made back in 2020 that he would be a one-term president and would pass the torch to another, as well as the fact that a good democracy holds primaries, regardless of who is currently president. But no, the Democratic establishment said absolutely not to a primary. The 2020 election had a healthy amount of primary candidates, including Bernie Sanders, who was extremely popular and had a very high chance of winning both the primary and the election against Trump. But one call from Barack Obama, and all but Sanders and Gabbard pulled out of the race to pave the way for Joe Biden, with Sanders eventually bowing out promoting Joe, something he said he would never do.
Why do they always lie?
Joe Biden was elevated to the top spot of the Democratic ticket in 2020 because of Obama, not because of the actual votes by the actual people. Obama made the call to the other candidates, and like a dance roll-off, they each pulled out and gave their endorsement to Joe. And then there is Kamala Harris, one of the most unliked politicians whose home state didn't even vote for her in 2020. She received 0 delegates and pulled out of the race in December 2019. Of all the candidates on that primary stage and all the choices that could have been made for a strong and popular vice president, the Democratic establishment again made their choice and decided to put this person in the second most important role in the free world.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
And now, just like in 2020, the Democrat electorate is being told to vote for Kamala, to be with her, and to vote for her because democracy is at stake. The Republicans will lead us into fascism, war, and destroy our country. All of those things are happening now. We are financially supporting wars in Ukraine and Israel that is bleeding our country dry and is the reason for inflation. 73% of people want this to stop, yet it keeps going. Is that a representative government doing what the majority wants? The middle and working class are struggling to afford basic necessities, which is so bad that even more liberal-leaning media outlet is doing segments on smart shopping, couponing, and how to save money when you go to the store. Yet the Biden administration keeps saying that this is the best economy ever, unemployment is at its lowest, and revenues are up. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of people have been getting laid off for the last 2 years, and unemployment? Yeah, that's a lie too. Remember when Biden wiped the unemployment rolls in the states after he lifted the benefits window that was extended by Trump because of a global pandemic that brought our economy and country to its knees? Around 8 million workers were wiped from unemployment rolls, which is why the unemployment numbers look the way they do. But when you really look at the economy, you can see why people are feeling the way they do, because reality is not being reflected by what the Democrat establishment and the current administration are saying. Biden's health has been in decline since he took office. All the signs of his cognitive and health decline have been evident for over 3 years. He's fallen asleep during critical meetings in Maui after the horrific fire that destroyed lives and land, and even while sitting next to leaders in one-on-one discussions. He's been mumbling and unable to make coherent sentences for at least the last year. But the talking point is he has a stutter.
Please stop gaslighting me.
I'm not gaslighting you.
He's looked lost and confused, having to be directed where to stand and walk. He was ushered off the stage by Jill Biden after his horrific debate performance against Trump. He himself talks about not being as sharp and admits to being tired. He doesn't remember people's names. He says people are alive that are actually dead. He lies about his past as well as the present. A comprehensive list of everything Biden has done would take forever, so hopefully these highlights are enough to convey the shit show that is Joe Biden. He has put this country in one of the most weak positions we have ever seen. Excuses upon excuses have been made for the last 3.5 years to dissuade the public from prying more into Biden's health. And this administration and this vice president, soon to be presidential nominee, all knew. They all kept this secret, maintained the basement campaign into a basement presidency, and it's obvious that the country has not had a leader. None of that is democracy. None of that is representative of the majority. It's not honest or transparent for a party that is always judging the Republicans for their own shenanigans, but are silent when it comes to Biden, and they don't see the glaring hypocrisy in any of that. In one day, Kamala raised over $80 million. This is a new Democrat talking point to show how much support she is getting, along with some people, including President Joe Biden, saying this is a grassroots movement.
I don't think that means what you think it means.
Silicon Valley tech moguls are not grassroots. All that money that Kamala brought in was not from everyday Democrats. It's the technocrats. It's the Democrat elite. It's not the people themselves. All of this shows how we do not have a representative government of the majority. The facade of democracy was lifted the minute the Supreme Court deemed corporations could act like people when it came to political donations. That is when we saw an acceleration of the corporate elite class taking over government and politics. Just like big tobacco, big pharma, big food, the Citizens United case opened the door for Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and New York elites to sway elections purely based on the money that was being moved around to the Democratic establishment. None of this is democracy, and something like this certainly is not democracy. This shows who our real master is, who these people really answer to, and why, regardless of the party, nothing is changing. Because they are not operating based on the desires of the people, the majority. We have a minority representative government that is everything but a democracy. You don't have a democracy when the president is bowing to a genocidal dictator. You don't have a democracy when the people are not being heard, and what's in their best interests is being pushed aside for the 1%. We live in a facade of a democracy, a banana republic that's consumed by greed, nepotism, lies, and extortion, extorting money from the working class every chance they get, raising our taxes and penalizing every transaction. Meanwhile, the Musks, Zuckerbergs, Bezoses, Gates, and hidden hands in the background are making decisions on our nation's behalf that are anything but good for us, the people. So when Democrats say democracy is at stake, just remember that this is a talking point. It has no bearing in reality. And the hypocrisy to decry democracy when you hold no primary, install a candidate that people don't like, and continue to push policies and money to people and countries that are in the end not for the benefit of the people of America, but the warmongers, the military-industrial complex, venture capitalists, and BlackRock. The Republican Party is not much better. But I will say this, they are, at least, out in the open with their intentions. If they're gonna stab you, they at least look you in the eye while they are doing it. Democrats are giving us pretty diversity while they stab us in the back and blame the Republicans for it. 2024 is exhausting, and voting is not going to change a damn thing. Well, thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that we have a democracy? Do you think this is something else? Are you looking forward to the 2024 election? Or are you, like me, completely nihilistic and cynical about pretty much everything going on right now? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, take care, and be kind to each other.